Stock slips with declines far exceeding the advances. Utilities and energies are big drags weighed by Adani Group counters, while IT and realty remain resilient. Adani Group managers and associates, including Gautam Adani, have been charged by a New York District Court and Securities and Exchange Commission of bribery. And the news spooks Adani Group stocks and leads Adani Green to scrap its bond offering. Legal experts say U.S. laws allow for settlement of charges, and Adani Group could exercise this option, but the fines will likely be heavy. Some of these seriousness of the charges impacting investor confidence and posing challenges for fresh financing. UPL strikes a deal with global investors Alpha Wave Global to invest $350 million in its seeds platform Advanta at a post-money valuation of $2.85 billion. The move, along with funds from a right issue, will help par the agrochemicals major debts. The Indian rupee fell to yet another low of 84.45 per dollar on sustained selling by foreign funds. Dealers say RBI continues to supply dollars but is selling less as intensity of dollar demand has lessened. Hello, good afternoon. You've tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala. A quick look at what the market is doing. Nifty is seeing those cuts of 0.7%, around that level that we've seen it go on since 10:30. It's just remained at that range. 23,313 is what the Nifty is at. 0.8% of decline as of now is what we're seeing. Sensex too similarly is down 0.7 to 0.8% in trade. Let's look at the broader markets and pull that up, because that seems like a bit of a better move coming in versus the benchmark indices, at least, because look at it, at one point of time when you're looking at it, the mid cap actually went into the green, but then again went a bit into the red again. 0.2% of decline as of now is what we're seeing coming in for the Nifty mid cap. Small cap too is seeing a similar trend coming in. So broader markets surely are relatively performing better than the benchmark indices. Top drags that we're seeing coming in, PSU banks. Let's look at Nifty PSU. That's down and out of trade among the top sectoral losers. We have Nifty Energy also, that's among the top laggard coming in on the sector performance. Realty, that's holding on to decent gains today. Nifty Realty among the top sectoral gainer there and managing to hold on to gains of around 1.2%. IT, that's a bit on the edge and almost near a flat line as of now, flip-flopping, between the red and the green in the last half an hour that we're seeing. So yes, Nifty IT, keep an eye out on that. Just mildly positive as of now is what the Nifty IT is holding on to. A lot of movers in trade in the Nifty 500. Let's talk about some of the gainers there. We have Amber Enterprises, VIP Industries, Indian hotels, which are managing to hold on to good gains over there. But yes, okay, we do have some update that's coming on Zydus Life as well. The Delhi High Court has allowed sale of breast cancer drug Sigrima for Zydus Life. So that is what we're keeping an eye out on. We've seen a bit of a pop coming in for the stock. Obviously, the stock has recovered from the day's lowest point, but keep an eye out on Zydus Life. This is from Informis that we're quoting, and that is what we're watching out for. So that's the latest news in terms of Zydus Life. Adani Group stocks, those are the laggards, top drags that are coming in there. And why is that so? They're in the deep red territory after US Court and Securities Exchange Commission charge Gautam Adani and other executives of bribery and fraud. Hormuz is here to give us all those details in terms of the order and the company's response. What's the latest update on that front? Good morning. Good afternoon, Hormuz. Morning was decent, but then I'm sure you were busy catching up with this Adani Group and the stuff that's
It's been a chaotic day for the Adani Group stocks for sure, and they've been seeing some choppy trades, some of them recovering from the lows of the day, but still trading with double-digit losses. And as you mentioned, that's because of the US District Court and the SEC charging Gautam Adani and other executives of bribery pertaining to some solar energy contracts. And they've also highlighted, the SEC in its order has highlighted that $750 million bond sale, which Adani Green had done in 2021, of which a certain sum was raised from US investors. And now, post these developments, Adani Green put out an exchange filing earlier this morning where they called off their proposed dollar-denominated bond sale. And one of Adani Green's earliest shareholders at the heights of the GQG, at the height of the Hindenburg saga, which is GQG, they put out a statement as well that they are evaluating portfolio action, monitoring recent developments, and GQG's own shares, which are listed in Australia, were down 20% in trading over there. But some more details that have come out from that district court order, and they're saying that the US issuer and the Indian energy company subsidiary were issued LOAs for manufacturing linked solar tender offers by the Solar Energy Corporation of India. And within this, the US issuer had agreed to supply 4 gigawatts of power to the SECI, and the Indian energy company subsidiary had agreed to supply 8 gigawatts. Now, SECI was responsible to look for state electricity distribution companies, the DISCOMs, who would buy or who would purchase that 12 gigawatt power that both these companies combined were supposed to supply to the SECI. Now, at that time of the award, the size and the scope of the project was among the largest in the solar energy sector as a whole, and Adani Green had issued a press release in this regard in 2020. The US issuer had also published a release about that 4 gigawatt order, where Ranjit Gupta, one of the individuals named in the US District Court order, he had mentioned that there was a large pipeline of over 4 gigawatts over an extended period of time, and over the next 2 decades there will be a profit after tax for the US issuer for almost to the tune of $2 billion is what the statement had said. Now, who are the 7 entities that are named in this order from the US District Court, the state-run entities? One of them being the Chhattisgarh State Power Distribution Company, the Tamil Nadu Generation and Distribution Corporation, Gridco, Jammu and Kashmir Power Corporation, and 3 entities from Andhra Pradesh, the Central Power, Eastern Power, and Southern Power Distribution Company, the 7 entities that have been named here. Now, what the order also says is that the US issuer and the Indian energy company both had signed PPAs with the SECI between October of 21 and February of 22. And these PPAs were where the US issuer was supposed to supply around 650 megawatts of solar power for Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, Odisha, and Jammu and Kashmir, while 2.3 gigawatts of power was to be supplied to Andhra Pradesh. And the Indian energy company signed its own PPAs with the SECI to supply the power for these states that I just mentioned. Now, what are the 5 counts that the district court has highlighted? The 5 counts which they have been charged on: count 1 is conspiracy to violate the FCPA. Count 2 is the securities fraud conspiracy. Count 3 is the wire fraud conspiracy. Count 4 is the securities fraud, which is pertaining to the 2021 dollar bond issue. And count 5 is the conspiracy to obstruct justice. So more details emerging out from that district court order is showing up in the stock price as well. 2.5 lakh crore market cap gone. It's an extremely choppy day for the Adani Group stocks.
Absolutely, just chopping away. Choppy day, it's just chopping away as of now when you're looking at it, Ormas. Look at all the stocks, deep red like we mentioned before. But on this note also, we spoke to top corporate lawyers on this issue, Adani Group's indictment, to know how this actually impacts the company's futures as well as the shareholders. Listen into what they had to say.
This is the first time there is a criminal indictment from a bribery charges. The Indian courts had not looked at the Adani Group from that perspective deeply. So the allegations were more to do with the minimum public shareholding, violation of securities law. But this is a much more serious allegation from a perspective of bribing public officials, bribing to get contracts, etc. Long-only funds would shy away from this because of their reputation, from taking positions, or would unwind their positions. 3 is even project financing for Adani Group will become very difficult. And so because they have announced a slew of projects for them to raise funding from many agencies or many investors or banks could become difficult if these charges stick and there is this reputation issue. And the cost of borrowing will also increase phenomenally.
I think there would be wider implications because this is a very serious charge of bribery, and it's an indictment which is done by the U.S. District Court. Apart from that, the SEC has also come up with certain allegations. So certainly there will be attempt to come to a settlement, and heavy fines will be definitely imposed. That's what I'm sure about, if the charges can ultimately stand. So it will definitely have an impact on the Indian market and Indian shareholders, because certainly the money will have to come from Indian companies. Even if we have to settle and pay a hefty fine, which will run into millions of dollars, it will definitely impact the Indian businesses and ultimately the Indian shareholders.
There is a process of settlement as well under the US law in case there are allegations on the FCPA or under the bribery laws in the US. So I don't think this is anything which is worrisome. It's like a fizz. And yes, allegations are there. There have been some observations here and there in relation to bribery allegations. But to my mind, there's nothing earth-shattering in this. It's always possible to settle this, and the dust will settle down.
Okay, we also have Ritu who's joining in with us right now to give us an idea in terms of Adani Group's debt picture. What is that looking like? Ritu, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Winnie. Well, this news around Adani Group has again led to some worries around the exposure of Indian banks and financial institutions. So we decided to take a look at just how large the debt is and how exposed Indian entities are. So as of FY24, which is the last disclosed numbers, the group's total debt stood at 2,41,000 crore rupees, which includes about 2.21 lakh crores in long-term debt. That makes up about 92% of the total, and 19,819 crores in working capital, which accounts for the remaining 8%. But the group continues to hold significant liquidity buffer with a cash balance of 59,791 crores, and that accounts for nearly 25% of the total debt. Now, let's look at where this debt is coming from. Indian or domestic Indian banks and financial institutions contribute the most. They make up 36% of the group's total borrowing, and that includes about 75,800 odd crores in long-term loans and 12,200 odd crores in working capital loans. Global capital markets come next with 29% share, followed by global banks at 26%. The rest of it comes from domestic capital markets and other sources. Now, if you break it down further for Indian banks, public sector banks have collectively lent about 36,447 crores to the group, across long-term working capital as well as long-term debt, while private banks account for about 8,568 crores. Now, other domestic financial institutions like your LIC, which is the largest holder, and NBFCs together account for 43,086 crores. But when it comes to individual lenders, LIC, of course, tops the list. SBI, we understand from sources, continues to have an exposure of about 27,000 crores, which was the last disclosed figure. And Axis Bank's exposure has come down to less than 9,000 crores. The other major lenders include Punjab National Bank, REC, Bank of Baroda, and IndusInd Bank. But if you look at Adani Enterprises, which is the flagship company, their annual report, they've listed ICICI Bank, IDFC Bank, Yes Bank, and other lenders that they've borrowed from as well.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Ritu. But the leader of the opposition, Rahul Gandhi, also addressed the press a short while ago regarding the news of Gautam Adani's indictment in the US. Listen to what he had to say.
हिंदुस्तान में अदानी जी के खिलाफ कुछ नहीं हो रहा और ये हम मांग बहुत दिनों से कर रहे हैं। अदानी जी का अरेस्ट होना चाहिए, आज अरेस्ट होना चाहिए। माधवी बुच जो हैं, जो उनकी प्रोटेक्टर हैं, जिन्होंने कोई इन्वेस्टिगेशन नहीं किया, उनको हटाया जाना चाहिए, उन पर इन्वेस्टिगेशन होना चाहिए।
Okay, and as we are speaking, we do have Adani Group statement that has just been released right now. When you're looking at it, what the company is saying that they are fully compliant with all the laws. All the allegations are baseless, is what Adani Group is saying. And they said that there is all the possible legal recourse is what they will be sorting out for as well. But as of now, they're saying these allegations are baseless, fully compliant with all the laws. That is the recent update that we have in terms of a release that has come in from the Adani Group, surely keeping an eye out on all the Adani stocks and any more details that come in on that front. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break, and after the break, we'll return and we'll talk about Indian rupee as the currency hits fresh lows. So stay tuned in for that. Thanks for staying tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Let's move on and talk about the Indian rupee that has hit a fresh low of 84.47 to a dollar on continued selling by foreign funds. Now, dealers say that the rupee's weakness is in sync with most Asian currencies, and all of which are weaker after the US dollar strengthened from 106.2 to 106.6 over the last 2 days. Lata is joining in with us to give us more details on the rupee. Lata?
The rupee's fall to 84.47 low today, or maybe even a little lower, is largely because it is catching up with the fall that happened in other currencies overnight, that is yesterday when we didn't trade. And the dollar strengthened yesterday, actually. Today, it's been a picture of stability. Most of the Asian currencies are stable, but the rupee is making up for lost ground. Now, the fall clearly is because of a lot of foreign funds coming and buying dollars after selling stocks. The RBI has been supplying a great deal of dollars, but here is the positive we have to note. Most of the dealers think that most of the fall is over, that henceforth you will see lesser pressure on the rupee, and therefore the Reserve Bank has to supply far fewer dollars than it has had to do in the past 2 weeks. And that's because most of the short dollar positions are over. They've been squared. Now there are only long dollar positions in the market. So further fall perhaps is a little unlikely. And maybe we should find some stability in the next few days. In any case, 84.50 was always seen as a point where support may come simply because it's a round figure.
Okay, Lata, thank you so much for that. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. And don't go anywhere. After the break, we'll give you excerpts from the RBI Governor's address from the conference held earlier today. Welcome back. You're watching Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Let's move on the RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das today addressed the policy conference of central banks from Global South. He spoke about how the Reserve Bank plans to strategize its focus on growth. Listen in.
I propose to focus on 3 specific areas of policy making and implementation, which I feel contain useful lessons, especially for the Global South. These 3 areas which I am going to focus on, they include 1, balancing inflation and growth, 2, monetary policy communication, and 3, crisis management.
Okay, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18, leaving with markets and Nifty with a cut of 0.8% in trade. But yes, don't go anywhere. Mid-cap radar up next.